Dadperfectrevenge. In my smoke detector. I found a camera hidden inside my smoke detector while changing the battery. Professional installation, wireless connection, pointed directly at my bedroom hallway. At 62 years old, living alone on my ranch outside Casper, Wyoming, why would anyone need to watch me sleep? To find the truth, I left that camera exactly where it was. I didn't tell anyone. I just started paying attention. 3 days later, my son asked me a question he couldn't have known to ask unless he'd been watching. That's when everything I thought I knew about my family shattered. My name is Howard Palmer. Before I tell you what happened next, I want you to understand something. I spent 28 years as an FBI financial crimes agent. I've seen fraud in every shape imaginable. Embezzlement schemes, identity theft rings, money laundering operations that would make your head spin. I thought I knew what betrayal looked like. I was wrong. The Saturday morning battery check was something my late wife Catherine started 25 years ago. Every 6 months, like clockwork, change the smoke detector batteries, test the carbon monoxide alarms, check the fire extinguisher. She'd been gone 4 years now, but I kept the routine. It felt like keeping a small piece of her alive. I was standing on my stepladder in the upstairs hallway, unscrewing the smoke detector cover, when I noticed something wrong. The weight was off, too heavy for just a 9-volt battery and some wiring. I pulled the whole unit down and looked inside. There it was, a tiny black cylinder no bigger than my thumb, nestled beside the battery compartment. A lens. A camera lens pointed through a small hole that had been drilled into the plastic housing. I stood there on that ladder for a full minute, not breathing. This wasn't some cheap gadget from Walmart. This was professional, expensive, the kind of thing that cost real money and required real knowledge to install. Someone had been watching me in my own home, the home Catherine and I had built together in 1989, the ranch my father had left me, the land my grandfather had cleared in 1947. I climbed down carefully and sat at my kitchen table, the smoke detector in front of me like evidence at a crime scene, because that's exactly what it was. I made myself think logically. Who had access? Who had opportunity? My neighbor, Earl Thompson, had a key for emergencies, but Earl was 71 years old and could barely operate his cell phone. He wasn't installing surveillance equipment. The furnace technician had come by in October for the annual inspection, but he'd been in my sight the entire time, never went upstairs. And then there was my son, Travis. He'd been coming by every Sunday for the past 4 months, ever since he moved back to Wyoming from Denver. He said he wanted to help out around the ranch. Said he worried about me living alone at my age. Travis was 41 now, married to Nicole, a corporate attorney. They'd been struggling with some business venture in Denver, real estate development that wasn't panning out the way they had hoped. Travis had been in every room of this house multiple times, alone. I sat back in my chair and rubbed my eyes. No, that was ridiculous. Travis was my son, my only child. He wouldn't spy on his own father. But even as I thought it, another part of my brain was clicking through details. Travis asking about my medications last week. Travis wanting to know the name of my doctor. Travis asking if I'd thought about what would happen to the ranch when I was gone. I told him not to worry about it, told him everything was taken care of in my will. He'd smiled and changed the subject. But something had crossed his face, just for a second. The FBI agent in me knew something didn't add up. The father in me didn't want to believe it. I made a decision then. I wouldn't confront him. I wouldn't rip out the camera. I would do what I'd done for almost 3 decades when something smelled wrong with a case. I would investigate, gather evidence, follow the money, find the truth. I put the smoke detector back exactly where it had been. Camera and all. Let them watch. Let them think I hadn't noticed. And I started paying very close attention to everything my son did. The next morning, I drove into town. Something had been bothering me. A week earlier, I'd found a GPS tracker that had fallen off my pickup truck during an oil change at the garage. At the time, I thought it was just a piece that had come loose. The mechanic had shrugged, said he didn't recognize it. Now, I wasn't so sure. I went to the library. I couldn't use my home computer. If Travis was watching through cameras, he might have access to my devices too. I'd seen enough fraud cases to know how these things escalated. How one violation led to another, how criminals got bolder when they thought they were getting away with it. At the library, I logged into my bank account for the first time in months. I usually relied on Paper statements, but something Travis said last Sunday had bothered me. He'd asked if I'd noticed anything unusual with my accounts. Said the bank had been calling about suspicious activity. I hadn't received any calls. The balance was wrong, significantly wrong. I should have had over $380,000 in my savings account. Money I'd saved over 28 years with the Bureau. Money Catherine and I had put away for retirement, for emergencies, for passing down to our grandson Lucas someday. I was looking at $255,000. Nearly $125,000 had vanished over the past 5 months. I clicked through the transaction history, my heart pounding. Wire transfer to Palmer Holdings, LLC. Wire transfer to Palmer Holdings, LLC. Wire transfer to Palmer Holdings, LLC. The same company over and over. Amounts ranging from $12,000 to $28,000 at a time. Small enough not to trigger automatic fraud alerts. Large enough to add up fast. I'd never heard of Palmer Holdings, LLC. I'd certainly never authorized any transfers. I searched for the company, nothing. No website, no registration, no business license on file with the Wyoming Secretary of State. A ghost company, the kind I used to find buried in fraud cases. The kind that existed only on paper to move money around. Someone had been stealing from me. Someone with access to my banking information. Someone who knew exactly how much they could take without setting off alarms. I thought about the camera in my office, pointed at my desk, pointed at the drawer where I kept my bank book and password list, because Catherine had always insisted I write everything down in case I forgot. I closed the browser and sat there in the library, surrounded by teenagers doing homework and retirees reading newspapers. My hands were shaking, not from fear, from anger. My son was stealing from me. My own blood. But I needed proof, concrete, undeniable proof, the kind that would hold up in federal court. Because if I was right, if Travis had really done this, I wasn't just going to confront him, I was going to prosecute him. That afternoon, I made a call to an old colleague. Carl Winters had been county sheriff for 15 years. We'd worked together on several cases back when I was still with the Bureau. Carl was one of the good ones, straight arrow, didn't cut corners. We met at a diner outside town, far enough that no one would recognize us together. I told him what I'd found, the cameras, the GPS tracker, the unauthorized transfers, my suspicions about Travis. Carl listened carefully, took notes, asked the kind of questions a good investigator asks. Then he leaned back in his chair and let out a long breath. "Howard, I believe everything you're telling me, but without concrete evidence connecting Travis to those transfers, we need to be careful. It could technically be identity theft by a stranger. The cameras are concerning, but if Travis has access to your home with your permission, it gets complicated legally." I understood. I'd been on the other side of this conversation dozens of times. Victims who were certain they knew who'd wronged them, but certainty wasn't evidence. "What do you suggest?" I asked. He gave me the name of a private investigator in Cheyenne, a woman named Diane Fletcher, who specialized in elder financial abuse cases. Carl said she was thorough, discreet, and she knew how to build cases that prosecutors could actually use. "Document everything," Carl said. "Take photos of those cameras, save every bank statement, write down every conversation with Travis, every time he visits, every question he asks. And Howard, be careful. If Travis is doing what you think he's doing, these cases usually escalate. When they realize you're onto them, they get desperate." The word escalate stayed with me all the way home. I called Diane Fletcher the next morning from a payphone outside the gas station. Old habits. If Travis had access to my phone records, I didn't want him seeing calls to a private investigator. We met that afternoon at a coffee shop in Laramie, far enough from Casper that no one would recognize me. Diane was in her mid-50s, sharp-eyed with the kind of direct manner I appreciated. No nonsense, no false sympathy, just business. She'd been a forensic investigator with the Colorado Securities Commission for 15 years before going private. She knew financial crime inside and out. I told her everything. She didn't interrupt, just took notes in a small leather notebook, her pen moving fast and precise. When I finished, she sipped her coffee and nodded. "This matches a pattern I've seen before," she said. "Adult children who feel entitled to their parents' assets. They start with surveillance to learn routines and access information. Bank passwords, PINs, security questions. Then they begin the financial exploitation. Wire transfers, forged checks, stolen credit cards. The final step is usually establishing legal control. Legal control? I asked, though I already knew where this was going. Power of attorney, she said. Guardianship. Having you declared mentally incompetent. Once they have that, they can sell your property, drain your accounts, even decide where you live, put you in a care facility. All completely legal if a doctor signs off on it. My blood went cold. Travis had asked about my doctor 2 weeks ago, asked if I was sleeping okay, asked if I felt confused sometimes, forgetful. I'd brushed it off as normal concern from a son about his aging father. Now I saw it for what it was. Groundwork, building a narrative that I was losing my grip, that I needed someone to take care of my affairs. How do I stop it? I asked. First, we gather evidence, Diane said. I can trace those wire transfers. Palmer Holdings sounds like a shell company. If it is, there's a paper trail somewhere. Someone had to register it, open bank accounts for it, move money through it. A second, we document everything about those cameras, serial numbers, model information, purchase records if we can find them. Third, we determine who else is involved. Your son's wife maybe, business partners, anyone who stands to benefit. She paused, studying my face. But, Howard, if Travis really is behind this, confronting him could be dangerous. I've seen these situations turn violent when the target realizes they've been caught. Elder abuse cases, family turns on family. It gets ugly fast. I'm not going anywhere, I said. This is my home, my land. 3 generations of my family have worked this ranch. I'm not letting anyone take it from me, not even my own son. Diane nodded slowly. Then we need to move fast, and we need to be smart. Can you play a role for me? Can you act confused, forgetful, like Travis wants you to be? I smiled. Lady, I spent 28 years interrogating white-collar criminals. I can play whatever role you need. Over the next 2 weeks, Diane dug into the finances while I played the role of an oblivious old man. I shuffled when I walked, repeated myself during phone calls, asked Travis the same questions twice in a row when he came by on Sundays. He ate it up. I could see it in his eyes. That flash of satisfaction every time I seemed confused, every time I forgot something we talked about the week before. The second Sunday, I set the stage carefully. I made pot roast, Catherine's recipe. Travis arrived at noon with Nicole. She barely looked at me, just went straight to the kitchen like she owned the place. Dad, you look tired, Travis said, kissing my cheek. Are you sleeping okay? Sleep fine, I said. Just getting old, I guess. Have you been taking your medications? He asked. Which medications? I said, knowing damn well I wasn't on any medications except a daily aspirin. Your blood pressure pills, Travis said, the ones in the blue bottle. I don't have blood pressure pills, Travis. He smiled sadly. The way you'd smile at a confused child. Of course you do, Dad. The doctor prescribed them last month, remember? We went to the appointment together. We hadn't gone to any appointment together. No doctor had prescribed anything, but he wanted me to believe I was forgetting things, losing my mind, setting up the narrative. Maybe you're right, I said. I get confused sometimes. His eyes lit up, just for a second, but I saw it, that gleam, like a poker player who'd just drawn the card he needed. Nicole came back from the kitchen. Howard, I noticed some of your mail on the counter, bills from the bank. Have you been keeping up with those? I pay my bills, I said. Of course you do, she said. It's just, at your age, it might be easier if someone helped. Travis could set up automatic payments for you. Make sure nothing gets missed. I've been paying my own bills for 40 years, I said. I think I can manage. She exchanged a look with Travis. Quick, but I caught it. Frustration. Impatience. The plan wasn't moving fast enough for them. After they left, I walked through the house doing a full sweep. I'd been watching YouTube videos on surveillance equipment, learning what to look for. I found the 4th camera that afternoon. Hidden in the living room, tucked into a bookshelf, lens pointed at the couch where I sat every evening. 4 cameras total. My bedroom hallway, my office, my kitchen, my living room. They'd turn my home into a surveillance operation, watching my every move, learning my routines, gathering ammunition. That night, Diane called with news. Palmer Holdings LLC, she said. Registered in Wyoming 6 months ago. The directors of record are Travis Palmer and Nicole Palmer, your son and daughter-in-law. I'd expected it, but hearing it confirmed still felt like a punch to the gut. They didn't even bother to use a fake name. They rarely do, Diane replied. They don't think they'll get caught. Arrogance, entitlement, whatever you want to call it. I've also traced the wire transfers. The money went from your account to Palmer Holdings, then to an offshore account in the Cayman Islands, then back to a numbered company here in Wyoming. That company recently made a bid on agricultural land in Park County. My land, I said. Not just a bid. They've already started the paperwork. I found a draft purchase agreement at the county recorder's office. Someone's trying to buy your ranch. And the signature on the seller's line looks an awful lot like yours. That's not possible. I never signed anything. The signature on file matches samples from your bank documents, Diane said. They must have traced it from something you signed. A birthday card, a letter, a check. Anything with your signature, they could practice copying it. My mind raced back. The birthday card I'd signed for my grandson Lucas 3 months ago. Travis had been there. He'd watched me write it, said he'd mail it for me. I'd thought nothing of it at the time. What do I do? I asked. We go to the authorities tomorrow, Diane said. I have enough now to make a case for wire fraud, forgery, and elder financial exploitation. But Howard, there's something else you should know. My stomach tightened. What? I pulled phone records for Travis and Nicole. They've been in contact with someone at a memory care facility in Cheyenne. Multiple calls over the past 3 weeks. 10, 12 calls. That's not casual inquiry. That's planning. They're planning to have me committed, I said. Not a question, a statement of fact. It fits the pattern, Diane said. Once they get power of attorney, they can have you declared mentally unfit. Get a doctor to sign off on cognitive decline. You go into a care home, and they have complete control over everything you own. Your money, your property, your life. And it's all legal. I hung up the phone and sat in the darkness of my living room. The camera in the bookshelf watched me silently, recording everything, gathering evidence that I was a confused old man who spent his evenings sitting alone in the dark. My own son was planning to steal my money, forge my signature, take my land, and lock me away in a care home, all while eating Sunday pot roast at my table and pretending to worry about my health. What would Catherine say if she could see this? What would she do? I knew the answer. Catherine never backed down from anything in her life. When cancer came for her, she fought it every single day for 2 years. She wouldn't want me to give up now. She'd want me to fight. I looked up at the camera hidden in the bookshelf, smiled right at the lens. Watch this, I said quietly. The next morning, Diane and I met with Carl Winters and 2 investigators from the FBI's white-collar crime unit. I still had contacts at the bureau. When I called in and explained what was happening, they moved fast. Elder exploitation cases were a priority now. Too many families preying on their own. I brought everything. Bank statements showing the missing $125,000. Photographs of all 4 cameras. The forged power of attorney documents Diane had uncovered. The draft purchase agreement with my forged signature. Phone records showing calls to the memory care facility. The investigators listened. They examined the evidence, spread it out on the conference table like pieces of a puzzle. They made calls to the U.S. Attorney's Office. They consulted with forensic accountants. By 3 o'clock in the afternoon, they had enough for arrest warrants. We'd like to bring them in tomorrow morning, one of the investigators said. His name was Phillips, mid-40s, sharp as a razor. But we need to tell you something. Your son made a phone call this morning to a Dr. Brennan in Cheyenne. He scheduled an appointment for you. Thursday morning, a cognitive assessment. They're accelerating the timeline, Diane said. They sense something's wrong. Maybe you weren't confused enough last Sunday. Maybe they're just getting impatient. Phillips nodded. If they get a doctor to sign off on diminished capacity before we arrest them, this gets a lot messier legally. They could claim they were acting in your best interest, muddy the waters, make it harder to prosecute. What do you suggest? I asked. We arrest them tomorrow morning, Phillips said. Wednesday, before that appointment, before they can get any doctor involved. We go in fast, simultaneous at their residence in Casper. Can I be there? I asked. Carl and Phillips exchanged a look. Howard, Carl said carefully, you don't want to see that. Yes, I said, I do. They sent me home with instructions to act normal. Don't change your routine. Don't let on that anything is wrong. If Travis called, answer like everything was fine. If he visited, play the confused old man one more time. I drove back to the ranch as the sun set over the prairie. The fields were still brown from winter, but here and there I could see hints of green. Spring was coming, new growth, life continuing despite everything. When I got home, Travis's truck was in the driveway. He was waiting in the kitchen, pacing. "Dad," he said, his face arranged in concern. "Where have you been? I've been calling all afternoon. Your phone went straight to voicemail." "I went for a drive," I said. "Battery died, I guess. Felt like seeing the countryside." "You can't just disappear like that." I was worried sick. What if something had happened to you? What if you'd gotten confused and driven off the road? "I'm 62, not 92, I said. "I can go for a drive if I want." His eyes narrowed just for a second. I saw something cold there, something calculating, something I'd never noticed before, or maybe never wanted to see. "Of course you can," he said, softening his voice. "I just worry, Dad. You've seemed so tired lately, so confused. I talked to Nicole and we think it's time we got you some help." "I don't need help, Travis." "Are you sure about that?" He stepped closer. "Dad, I've been meaning to talk to you about something. There's a doctor in Cheyenne I'd like you to see. Just a checkup, making sure everything's working the way it should. Your memory, your thinking, all of that." "What kind of doctor?" "A specialist, cognitive health." He reached out and put his hand on my shoulder, the gesture of a concerned son. But his grip was tight, too tight. "It's nothing to be scared of. Lots of people your age go through this. Memory issues, confusion, it's normal. We just want to make sure you're being taken care of." I looked at him, really looked at him, my son. The baby Catherine and I had brought home from the hospital 41 years ago. The little boy who used to help me fix fences. The teenager who'd cried at his mother's funeral. Where had that boy gone? "Thursday, right?" I said. "In Cheyenne." He blinked, surprised. "How did you know about that?" I smiled at him, the same empty smile he'd been giving me for months. "You must have mentioned it." "Right," he said slowly. "Right, I must have." He stayed another 20 minutes, talking about the appointment, about how it was for my own good, about how he and Nicole just wanted what was best for me. I nodded along, played my part. The confused old man who didn't quite understand what was happening to him. When his taillights finally disappeared down the road, I sat at my kitchen table and waited for morning. I didn't sleep that night. Couldn't sleep. Kept thinking about Catherine, about the life we'd built here, about Travis as a boy, before whatever happened to turn him into this. At 7:45 Wednesday morning, I saw the vehicles coming up the road. Sheriff's Department cruiser. 2 FBI sedans. Moving fast, kicking up dust in the morning light. Carl Winters got out first. "Howard," he said, "it's happening now. Officers are at Travis's house in Casper. We're making simultaneous arrests." I nodded. "I'm coming with you." Carl hesitated. "You sure about this?" "I need to see it," I said. "I need to know it's real." The drive to Casper took 35 minutes. Nobody talked much. Carl tried to prepare me, told me it might get ugly, told me I could wait in the car. I didn't respond. Travis's house was a nice place in a new subdivision off Highway 220. The kind of place young professionals bought when they were trying to look successful. 2 cars in the driveway, Travis's truck, Nicole's black SUV. The officers approached the door. I stayed back by Carl's cruiser, watching. Carl knocked, hard, official. The door opened. I saw Travis's face through the morning light, confused at first, then shocked, then pale as he understood what was happening. One of the officers said something. Travis shook his head, started to close the door. The officer put his hand on it, held it open, showed the warrant. Then I heard Nicole screaming from inside the house. Not words, just sound, raw and furious and panicked. 2 officers brought Travis out in handcuffs. His hair was wild. He was still in sweatpants and a t-shirt. When he saw the FBI sedans, when he saw Carl's uniform, his face went white. Then he saw me standing by the cruiser. "Dad?" His voice cracked, small, confused, like a child's. "Dad, you don't understand? I was trying to help you. You're not well. You need someone to take care of you." I didn't say anything, just stood there looking at him. His face changed, the mask dropping away completely. The concerned son vanished. What replaced it was something ugly. something I'd never seen before. "You stupid old man," he spat. "Do you have any idea what you've done? That ranch should have been mine years ago. You're sitting on $2 million worth of land, doing nothing with it. Just sitting there alone, wasting it, while Nicole and I were drowning in debt. We needed that money. I deserved it." "I taught you better than this, son," I said quietly. He laughed, a bitter, ugly sound. "You taught me to wait my turn, to be patient, to respect my elders. Well, I'm done waiting. I'm done watching you waste everything Mom and Grandpa built while I get nothing." They put him in the cruiser. Nicole came out next, screaming at the officers, at Travis, at me. Her face twisted with rage. They put her in the other vehicle. Neither of them looked at me as they drove away. The investigation took 4 months. Diane Fletcher traced every dollar, documented every transfer, found every forged signature. The FBI built a case so solid there was no room for negotiation. Travis and Nicole had stolen $125,000. They'd forged my signature on power of attorney documents using a birthday card I'd signed. They'd created a shell company to buy my land for a fraction of its value. They'd installed 4 cameras throughout my home. They'd contacted doctors with false information about my mental state. At trial, Travis's lawyer tried to argue that he was acting out of genuine concern, that he believed I was showing signs of dementia, that the financial transfers were family money being moved around for estate planning. The jury didn't buy it, neither did the judge. The evidence was overwhelming. Travis received 42 months in federal prison. Nicole was disbarred and got 18 months. Their house was seized to pay restitution. On the day of sentencing, Travis asked to speak to me. The marshal said it was my choice. I said no. 6 months later, I received a letter at the ranch. Prison stationery, Travis's handwriting, smaller and neater than I remembered. "Dad, I'm sorry. I know that doesn't mean anything now, but I am. I made terrible choices. I let money and pressure turn me into someone I don't recognize. I don't expect you to forgive me. But if you could visit, I'd like to explain. I'd like to try to make you understand." I sat at my kitchen table for a long time with that letter. Then I got out a piece of paper and wrote one line. "The door isn't locked forever, but you have to earn it." Back. I mailed it the next day. I never heard from him again. My grandson Lucas came to visit last month. He's 21 now, finishing his degree at the University of Wyoming. Environmental science. He wants to work for the Forest Service. He asked about his father. I told him the truth, that Travis had made bad choices, that those choices had consequences, that none of it was Lucas's fault. "Grandpa," he said as we walked through the fields, "what's going to happen to all this?" I told him that I'd change my will, that the ranch would go to him when I was gone, held in trust until he was 30, that I'd set up funds for his education, for his future. He cried, hugged me hard. "I won't let you down." "I know you won't," I said, because he had Catherine's eyes, her sense of right and wrong. Looking back now, I realize how close I came to losing everything. If I hadn't noticed that camera, if I hadn't trusted my instincts, if I'd believed what Travis wanted me to believe, I'd be in a care, home right now, drugged, helpless, watching strangers sell off everything 3 generations had built. It happens more than you think. Diane told me she handles dozens of cases like mine every year. Most never get reported. The victims are too ashamed, too confused, too scared. If something feels wrong in your family, trust that feeling. Document everything, tell someone, get help. I learned this. Love is not an excuse for exploitation. Blood is not a license to steal. And age doesn't make us helpless unless we let it. I'm 62 years old, still living on my ranch, still changing those smoke detector batteries every 6 months, just like Catherine taught me. The cameras are gone. The shell company is dissolved. My accounts are secure. Every morning I walk through my fields and thank God for another day on land my family has worked for 3 generations. Some wounds don't heal, but I'm still here, still standing, still fighting. That has to count for something. The hardest truth I learned. Sometimes protecting your family means protecting yourself from your family. If my story can save one person from what I went through, then sharing it was worth every painful word.